Breaking the altar stone at Stonehenge is Scottish. This week, something remarkable was revealed. Stonehenge, Britain's greatest prehistoric monument, has been hiding a Scottish secret. The giant altar stone at its centre didn't come from Wales, as experts believed for decades. It came from Scotland. Think about that. 5,000 years ago, ancient people moved a 6-ton boulder over rivers, mountains, forests, for hundreds of miles. Not just any stone, as a sacred one. A stone they believed had power. Now think about that for a second. Moving a bloody great hunk of sandstone all the way from Scotland to Salisbury Plain. That's no mean feat, mate. You're talking hundreds of miles, uphill, down dale, across rivers. Whoever moved it, they weren't messing about. And that makes you wonder, why go through all that trouble? What made that stone sacred enough to haul it across an entire island? Ah, the Stone of Destiny, or as they call it up north, the Laia Fail, Scone. Aye, that's Scone, where kings of Scotland and later England were crowned. In Dalriada, that's ancient western Scotland near Kilmartin, kings were crowned by standing on sacred stones, old ways, real old power. The Stone of Destiny itself, this ancient sandstone block, might have been used by Arthur himself, mind you. It's said to date all the way back to Jacob the Israelite. Jacob, they say, slept on the stone when he received visions from God. Moses nicked it during the Exodus, fair play to him, and carried it into the wilderness. Some reckon it was even the very stone Moses struck to bring forth water when the Hebrews were gasping. Later, Moses handed it over to a right interesting pair, Prince Gathalus of Athens and his Mrs. Scota, when they fled Egypt. They carted that stone with them across Samothrace, Portugal, and finally Ireland. Round about the year 500, an Irish prince named Fergus thought he'd pop across to Scotland to start a new kingdom, Dalriada. And what did Fergus bring? Yep, the stone. Now here's where it gets properly juicy. On his way north, Fergus dropped into Castle Carbonel, and guess who he bumped into? Merlin, King Pelles. They sweet-talked him into lending them the stone, took it off to London town for a bit of business. There, young Arthur Pendragon, just a lad, drew Excalibur from it, and with that he was crowned High King of Britain. After Arthur's coronation, Merlin and Pelles, being the decent sorts they were, took the stone back to Iona. St. Columba himself, it said, died resting his bonny head upon that very stone. Fast forward a bit. In 843, Kenneth MacAlpin stood atop it and became the first king of Scotland. And from then on, every king of Scotland was crowned upon it. Macbeth? Yep. Constantine III? Yep. Kenneth II? Aye, him too. Then in the 1300s the English thought, we'll be having that, and swiped it for their own coronations. Even King Charles III sat above the stone, didn't he? So, is the Stone of Destiny truly tied to Arthur? Or was the Excalibur tale just a lovely old myth after all? And wouldn't you know it? The answer might just be waiting for us, back in Dalriada. Not many folk know this, but there's a theory, and not some mad pub talk either, that King Arthur wasn't some English knight-errant after all. He was Scottish, but look north to Dalriada, and the puzzle pieces fit. Lawrence Gardner, historian and royal genealogist, suggested that Arthur was not an English king at all, but a Scottish warlord. Son of King Aidan MacGabrain, who ruled Dalriada, a Scottish kingdom settled by the Irish around 500, in the final quarter of the 6th century. The story of his son Arthur was written down during his own lifetime. According to historian Richard Barber, Arthur of Dalriada was the Arthur to which the Gododin poem refers. The Gododin is an inspiring, tragic tribute to 300 gold-torqued warriors who knew they were riding to their deaths in a glorious last stand of Romano-Celtic Britain. Sounds like the last stand of the 300 Spartans to me. It was composed by a man who was their contemporary and friend, and who sought to ensure their sacrifice would never be forgotten. And so Arthur has lived on. A battle chief whose story was so powerful it became legend. Thus his fame grew in oral and written legend until he was eventually attached to battles fought before his time by other war leaders. And we know of Arthur of Dalriada because he was also woven into the Grail legends. Here's another tasty crumb for you. When the Knights Templar got the old heave-ho from England in 1312, guess where they legged it to? Back to Dalriada, Kilmartin Glen, graves with sword carvings, sacred grounds. Maybe they weren't just running. Maybe they were returning home. To a homeland steeped in older, deeper legends. Maybe even Arthur's homeland. So the altar stone at Stonehenge, it's not just a stone, it's a whisper across the ages. From a land where kings stood on holy rocks, where warriors fought and died for more than just land, for legend itself. Maybe the secret's been in Scotland all along, and maybe it's high time we start listening. Subscribe for more hidden history, British Heritage Prism. Truths they never taught you.